Hi everyone, it's Santiago here. The reason I'm recording that video is because, as you saw today during the session, when I was doing the third demo, demo number 3, to talk about the Cisco Intelligent Automation for Cloud, the first section of the demonstration, which was the provisioning of the virtual server, worked well. But then when I went in to do the change of the number of virtual CPUs, as well as later on the deprovisioning, the Tidal Enterprise Orchestrator was failing to process the workflow. Actually, what I want to do here now is run through the demo itself, and then later on towards the end, I'm actually going to show you what happened earlier on today, so that you can understand that as well. So, as I was explaining before, that demo is based on the Cisco Intelligent Automation for Cloud, where we are leveraging the Cisco NewScale front office as the service catalog and a self-service portal. That after the user places the request on the portal, that information is passed on to the Tidal Enterprise Orchestrator, which is my global orchestration from functionality point of view. And Tidal Orchestrator actually has a few adapters, like for example UCS Manager, VMware adapter, that enables it to actually go and talk to the domain managers. Also, it also has, which we're not going to be using on that demonstration, but it also has the Tidal Server Provisioner, which is the capability to go out and provision the OS. For example, go and provision a bare metal server, go and provision like a ESX, a hypervisor on a server. So the first part of the demo, which again that you saw that earlier on today, but I'm to make sure you have a complete view, I'm gonna run through that again. We're gonna have the user logging into the Cisco NewScale self-server portal. Then the user is going to browse through the service catalog and is going to choose to provision a new server. He's going to fill out the form and submit the order. In our case here, we have built the need for someone to go and approve the order of a new server, a request of a new server. So in that case, then the manager of the user in my simulated environment, but can be anyone who has authority to approve it, it's going to log back into the portal and approve it. And then once that happens, you're going to see that the virtual machine is going to be provisioned. And then from the user perspective on the portal, he gets that as completed, and obviously he's happy to have a new server up and running within minutes rather than days or weeks. Behind the scenes, which the cloud user does not see, is that request is passed on to the Tidal Enterprise Orchestrator, which is going to process that information, execute the associated workflows. In that case, Tidal Enterprise Orchestrator is interfacing with vCenter to do things like clone a VM, reconfigure the IP address, do sysprep into that VM. Once that's all completed, then it's when the user is informed. So what I'd like to do now here is switch back to my lab, and what I have here is accessing the Cisco NewScale portal. I'm going to log in as Rob, and Rob, into that particular example, it's my cloud user. So when Rob logs into the portal, that portal here it's fully customizable. So in my case here, I have that picture, but in your environment you can put your company logo and customize as you like. What you're going to see that Rob has access to only certain services from the catalog. So the service catalog itself has a lot more than just those two services here. In the case, because that's role-based access control, Rob has only the capability of requesting a bare metal server or a virtual machine. In our example here, Rob wants a virtual machine. It's a virtual server. So Rob is going to go here under provisioning, and he's going to order a new server. So because we have integration with Active Directory, you're going to see that that information is pre-populated. And in terms of the systems available, we have, for example, a blank VM, which is just a VM without any OS on it, and we're going to be using that later on. Windows 2003, Windows 2008, and even a Windows application. So let's say he wants a Windows 2008. You're going to see that now I have sub options. So even under Windows 2008, I might have a large, medium, and small server. For example, a large server means that server has 4 virtual CPUs and 8 gig of RAM, 8 gig of memory. A medium server means 2 virtual CPUs and 4 gig of RAM. And a small server, 1 CPU and 2 gig. And depending on what I select here, you're going to see that the price also changes, right? So it's medium costs $7 per hour. What I would like to do here is select small Windows 2008. Let's give the name of Cisco Live 2011. Rob wants that to be available from today, so immediately, and he wants that to be available for 1 week. So he's happy with his request, and he's going to go ahead and submit the order. Once he does that, he comes here on the portal and clicks to get more information about the status of his request. What you're going to see here is the provisioning of that VM is pending. And the reason that's pending is because it's pending authorization or approval. That's what's in progress now. So what I'd like to do now is come here and log in as David. David, in that case, is the user that needs to approve any request that Rob makes. So David's going to come here under his authorization tab, and he now has the request from Rob. If I click here, I have the option to go ahead and approve it, or what David can do, he can click here and he can actually see all of the details of the request from Rob, including what's the name of the VM, what's the CPU, memory, and the cost as well. So let's say that David is happy with that, but he's going to go ahead and approve it. So when David approves that, 2 things really happens. One is Rob, logging back into Rob, his request is now updated, and the authorization phase is now completed, and the VM is now actually being provisioned. So it's in progress. Not only the portal is updated, but actually that request is now passed on to the orchestrator. So if I come here into the orchestrator and refresh that, what you're going to see is I have a workflow running, which is provisioning the server. So if I right click that and I go into observe, actually let's see that workflow running. So what you're going to see is that workflow has already executed several steps, because as the workflow gets executed, the color changes to green. So in that case here, now I know that the workflow is processing that sub workflow which says create a VM from a template, which if I would right click here, I could actually deep dive on that and see where we are. So the moment we are creating a VM by cloning it, that's the step where the workflow it is at the moment. And if I come here to VMware vCenter, you're going to see that this is really happening. You know, I'm cloning a virtual machine. I'm cloning from that specific template to create that VM. So what I'd like to do now, let's allow that VM Windows 2008 to run, that provisioning step to happen. And what I'd like to do now is come back here as Rob and request a second VM. So Rob's going to do the same step, going to provision a second VM, but now instead of provisioning Windows 2008, he's just going to provision a blank VM. But this is basically a VM with no OS, but you know, it executes the workflow a lot faster. And I want to use that to demonstrate other capabilities to you. So let's say he's now going to call that CL2011-B for blank. It's a VM with one virtual CPU, 256 megabytes of memory. He's going to run that from today. Say that's valid for a week. Submits that. Again, the same process happens. It's pending approval. So I need to come back here on the David dashboard. And again, he needs to come here. Rob requesting a blank VM, and David's going to approve it. So that has exactly the same effect. Now, if I come back to Rob, that VM is being provisioned.